Hey, welcome to another typology interview. We have here Roos and Andrea. How's it going, ladies?
Hi,
Nice to
super
have you.
great.
Yeah. So we'll just go over quickly your types just before we start. So here. So we have Roos is over here as an ENTJ, TENI. Both, and Andrea's down here, ESFP. Both have their double masculine region here. They're both MF audio. So their masculine is here and the feminine blast, both of them. And we have Roos is starting off in blast, then play, then sleep. And Andrea is starting in consume, then play, and then blast. So we'll get some good triangulation going. I'll stop the share and we can start. Okay, so I guess you guys are pretty much at opposite end of the boards, but I guess like your third functions are the first of the other person, sort of thing, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So that's kind of how it'll work. So yeah, let's start with maybe SE. We'll start with SE. So Andrea, let's tell us a little bit about your SE and how you see it working in your life.
Yeah. So I guess SE is kind of like the gathering of like sensory experiences. So I don't remember if I ever mentioned this during interviews, but I'm a huge sucker for targeted ads. So I was just thinking back over like my past year, and I've gotten so many things from targeted ads, like a couple of bras, some shoes, food, like nootropics, and like other like kind of like bad type of hype food items. Yeah, I definitely found things I really love out of those, but like I guess like in general, I just like to gather things. And yeah, I feel like material things definitely bring me a lot of joy, but yeah.
Right. And how much do you need to gather, because you're consuming as your lead, so how much do you need to gather before you feel like you've understood something or gotten a concept down?
Yeah, I guess with the example of like shopping and ads and buying things, like there really isn't, I guess, like an NI point to get, but I would say that where I see my like SE and NI like pinging back and forth is when I'm like actively trying to learn certain concepts. Yeah, so I go to church and I read the Bible pretty regularly, and like oftentimes like I'll have to like see things kind of like written out on the page like over like a span of like weeks or months before I feel like I've really gotten down a concept that people seem to, be able to get really quickly. Yeah, and also I guess another kind of learning that I often do is my relationships with other people. Just learning like where I stand in like their social circles, where they stand within my social circles, and like are like, do I trust that they're gonna not betray me or like be there for me for like a long time? Like that's like I feel like that type of information I kind of like gather more than I would like to before like I kind of reach an NI conclusion. So I guess like those are the two scenarios where I feel like it's most SENI.
Nice. I see Roos was sort of agreeing and sort of not. Do you have like something to say about that?
No, I was just thinking that was a lot of blast for a last third person. But I was just trying to I don't know, try to understand what you're saying and see if I agree. I wouldn't know what it's like to have SE first, of course, because I don't. But because for me it's a demon, and I'm just now thinking. I was actually writing some stuff down to see where I see it in myself, like how it comes up in my life. And what I definitely see is, I think I talked to you, Benjamin, before about this, or I don't know, maybe in my typing video, but the fact that my sensory is masculine, and that that has to do with how I see my memory. It's very, how do I say? It's like linear. It's a linear line, and I know. I was actually going to ask, like, if you agree with this. I have a very good memory for stuff like, I knew this happened in that year because I I don't know, I was friends with that person and I met that person in that year, so I know I already knew them, stuff like that. Like I know I have a pretty good memory for that kind of stuff, where I know when things happened or what happened before the other thing. But yeah, as I said, it's a demon, and I really noticed that because it's pretty hard for me to live in the moment, to like yeah, to realize, you know, to not worry about the future, and so not to think, just to like maybe sit in the park and enjoy the sunlight. I'll always be thinking like, okay, what's next? What am I gonna do next? You know, what am I gonna do tonight? What am I gonna eat tonight? Stuff like that. And yeah, so that's how I see it being a demon.
Right. Nice. Do you identify at all with the memory and the linearity of that, Andrea?
Yeah, I would say I feel like my SE is very kind of like in the moment SE. So like when I start kind of organizing past events, like to me that ventures a little bit into like, and I land almost. So like kind of constructing a linear progression of events is sometimes pretty difficult for me. But I do think that I have a pretty good memory in terms of like dates and like the sequence of things. It's just like, it's like for me to kind of like organize that information and get it out of me, like it takes a while. So yeah, there are definitely parts of that I see. Yeah, if that is masculine sensory, then I guess it would make sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to TE. Roos, your TE, we spoke about it last interview, but maybe just go over it again really quick so Andrea can hear how you see a savior TE.
Yeah, always hard when you are like, how do you see this function? And I'm like, yeah, actually, how do I see this function? It's such a savior, such a big savior, that it's really what I'm constantly always doing. So first thing is the tribe validation, I think they sometimes call it pinging, like banging on the heads of the tribe to like ask. And it's a constant thing. I'll ask like, okay, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Why? What do you think? You know,
Right.
Like the constant, the constant, I call it gathering of reasons. And I was thinking about this today, actually, for the difference between TE and TI. And I thought about how TE is really like TI times 7 billion. Like I can see my TI, but I can see everyone's reasons. Like, and I want to know them all because I need them to. I just need them in my life to like decide what I'm gonna do, or for everything really.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope it makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, okay, so what you're describing mostly, I think there is also play, and which is both your second animal. So you guys both have that in common. Do you also really like to get advice from everybody, Andrea, before you make a decision, or?
So I guess for me, it's a little different because my second function, like my second savior function, is FI. So like when I'm kind of like making a decision that only affects myself, so like, you know, like kind of like big decisions in my life, kind of I would tend to, you know, lean on my FI. And it's important to me that I lean on my FI. Like when I was going through school, just like having the freedom to pick a major that I really liked, that was important to me. Like, and I remember my parents didn't like the majors that I picked. And so my friends felt like it wasn't maybe the smartest move, but I needed to pick the majors that I liked, because otherwise, like, my heart just wouldn't be in it, and I guess I would get very angry. But I can see in kind of like everyday situations, I do try to get a consensus from everyone. And yeah, my TE is also double activated. So I guess like day to day, like there are instances where I feel like I'm doing too much TE. Like I couldn't stop myself from doing TE, but like I'm doing it too much that like, you know, my FI is like really suffering and it doesn't feel good. So yeah, I feel like especially in like I see my TE most activated when like we're kind of like having intellectual discussions in the office when we're like, you know, talking about, you know, philosophy or politics and things like that. I try to make sure that everyone agrees on something and there is a consensus, even though everyone's kind of disagreeing on like some small things.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's interesting that you say it was really important for me to pick the majors that I like that were fit your FI, I guess. Because for me, I'm not right now going through. I'm doing a master's degree, and like me and the other students were all kind of like trying to find a job, and a lot of the people want to go into big law firms, and I decided for myself some time ago I don't want to do that. Like that's not what I want to do. It's not that's not the path for me. But as I'm surrounded by so many people that do want to do that, and that are also like trying to do the extracurricular activities that would fit that career path, I sometimes have to remind myself that I don't want that. So like maybe sometimes they're talking about stuff like, we're doing this and I'm doing this and I'm going there with this law firm, doing this with this law firm. And I sometimes start thinking, oh, cool, maybe I should look into that. And then a few minutes later, I'm like, wait, no, don't. That's not what you want. That's just what they want. And I do know what I like sometimes, not always, but I have to remind myself, you know, it's not this, it's not a savior. It doesn't come naturally. So I don't know, I find it fascinating when people say like, I have to do what I like, because I'm like, how do you know? Like, how do you know so instantly what you like?
Right. Interesting. Do you guys, Andrea, are you interested in what works in the world at all? Like, are you interested, is that your truth? What's working? I don't know.
What works in the world? So I guess something that I've been thinking about often is kind of my own career trajectory, because right now I'm still in the first job that I've had since I graduated. It's almost 3 years since I've been with this company. And I work at a consulting job, which means that, you know, I work on a lot of different projects, develop a lot of different skill sets, and that feeds my SE. So it makes me happy. But at the same time, it's difficult thinking about where to go from here, because I've been involved in so many different projects, developing so many different skill sets. It's difficult to, you know, like, no, like there's no set like next step, or like, you know, my boyfriend works in finance, so like, you know, like everything's just kind of very linear, and like like once you do this, you only have like 3 choices, and then once you pick one of the 3, then you only get like 1 of 2 choices and things like that. So yeah, compared to him, like I have a lot more freedom in terms of what to choose. And there are people giving me advice or like telling me that like, hey, like you should really like go for this pathway instead of the other pathway, because like, you know, this pathway is more prestigious or whatever. And I feel kind of like an instinctive disgust towards what is the smartest thing to do, you know, like in terms of what works in the world, or in terms of like the most like street smart thing to do, or the, you know, best career that's gonna like, you know, earn you the most prestige or the most money. Like I have an instinctive like disgust towards things like that. Not that like I genuinely think that it's bad, but like I guess like I don't want to just like follow what other people are doing just because I feel like it's more prestigious or would earn the most money. I feel like it's a betrayal to my own FI. Like I would only pick those pathways if like my own FI agrees with it. Yeah. So
Yeah, it also sounds your SE's in there too, that you don't want to be locked into something either. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see a similarity with that, Roos, for yourself?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I don't think I would have such a big problem with having. It would feel pretty secure for me, like, you know, like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do next. I know what the next step is, and of course, if you end up not liking it, you'd have to find another way. But I think I feel pretty confident in the options that I would still have. Like you could always drop out of a career. Like you could always do something else, even if it was working at a bakery. I don't know. You could always start something else. But having that, what you described, linear career path in what you're doing right now, as long as I would be enjoying it, I would be. That sounds good to me. So that's I think what I think about it.
So we didn't really talk too much about NI yet. Andrea, it's your demon, but Roos, it's one of your saviors. So do you find that you're able to really plan for the future, and you're really good with the concepts? You don't need a lot of data before you sort of get your concepts, or?
Yeah, that has always been such a vague description to me that I don't really relate to that, because I mean, I guess so, but maybe not. The only thing is I have been talking to some people, and I have also typed someone personally in my, like, for my friends who have NE and lead NE, and I really see why I'm not lead NE, because I thought before maybe I was that, but the way they're always looking for the new, always like, oh, we already knew that, okay, next plan, next option, next thing. No, I know I'm not that, so therefore NI makes sense, but the literal description of NI is I don't really relate to it that much, I guess.
Okay, what about what about organizing your concepts and your sleep a little bit, Roos? Like, are you aware of how you sleep, about with your FI and NI, maybe systems, moral systems, things like that, value systems?
Yeah, we were talking about this last time, weren't we? About how I have sleep third and demon consume, and I was actually thinking about it after the interview, and have been, like, for a few weeks, thinking about how my sleep really, I don't think it happens very consciously. It's my activated demon, and I do it, but I don't really choose to do it. It just happens, and I know it happens. Sometimes I can see I've done it, but it's really that consume is my demon, in the sense that I feel repulsed and I don't want to do it. Like, if I see it's coming up, I see I'll have to consume in the near future, I'll be like, oh my god, no, like it's stressful, therefore I know it's my demon, kind of like my missing animal. But sleep is not really something I consciously do, but I guess it's in there because I don't feel the repulsion as with consume. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't answer your question, but this is my blaster lesson.
Right. Andrea, are you aware of how you have a demon understanding, demon NI? Does it resonate with you, like the lack of plan in your life, the lack of general, like that linear path you were talking about? You're breaking up.
I think she's gone. Oh no.
She got the
Maybe
question.
someone.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
You got the question. So let's hear the answer.
Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, is she there again?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Okay. So I feel like similar to Rouse, like I have like I understand my NI the least. I guess because it is my fourth demon, so I don't really like, well, first of all, I don't really like consciously think about it. And secondly, it's a feminine NI. So I feel like it kind of asserts itself even less because it's a feminine function. And for me, I can plan things. Like if you ask me to plan events, like I can, like, write you a schedule and things like that. But in terms of kind of like really knowing things, like I feel like interpersonally, like I struggle a lot with like, does this person like me, or does that person, like, like if I like if I say this thing, like would that person get offended? It sounds kind of like an FITE struggle as well, but I feel like for me, like I know it for sure that like it's an issue with like not understanding or not seeing or not having an NI understanding of what people would do in certain situations, and just not knowing what will happen in the future. I feel like for me, like when I seek kind of like tribal approval, what's really important to me is knowing that like the people close to me would stay close to me in the future. And if they don't, then like I just, that's my definition of kind of like validation, or are we close? So like it really is like I view all of my interpersonal struggles as really an NI struggle, you know? So just like not knowing what's going to happen in the future, who I'm going to be with, who I'm going to be close to, what physical location I'm going to be in, what kind of career I'm going to be doing. I feel like with all of those things, there are just so many different options, which I guess is like what my feminine NI is leading me to see, that, you know, there are options, but like each option is kind of like a set pathway that I need to choose. And like, that's like kind of what is difficult for me.
Is that scary for you, Andrea, that it's like that, or is that liberating and it's good for you that you don't know what the future will hold?
Oh no, it's absolutely terrifying. Yeah, I feel like it, like in a way, it would be so much easier if I'm kind of like locked in a box and like I don't have to make all of these decisions. Like, yeah, I probably would feel, you know, pretty limited and feel like, you know, my FI would get angry, but at the same time, I don't have to deal with like this whole like fear and anxiety of like, you know, what ifs, like, what if I choose the wrong thing? What if I do everything right, but everything still turns out like badly? Yeah, what if there's something that I can do now to prepare myself, but I'm not doing it because I can see what the future holds? So yeah, I feel like that's a pretty like crippling fear for me.
Wow.
I guess especially in this stage of life too. Yeah.
Wow. Roos, are you seeing a very opposite thing in your type or in your life?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I also get scared of the idea that I don't know what the future could bring, or, you know, different options or decisions I'll have to make. But for me, I feel so in control with the control and chaos, because it's in the middle, and I really don't have a lot of the freakouts and the stressful situations. I always, like, yeah, there are some. Of course, I don't know what I'm gonna do like all the rest of my life, but I feel so in control of what will happen, or that I can change it. Maybe that's a masculine sensory also, that I can choose my own path, and if I don't like it, I can do something about it. That, yeah, I don't care that much about it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe,
Right.
yeah.
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 What about the understanding of people? Do you resonate with not understanding people, or do you think you have a good understanding of the future and who will be with you and who won't be with you, things like that?
Yes and no. It's a tricky one. I'm definitely not the kind of person. I'm pretty. I wouldn't say naive. I would not say naive, but I do have trust in people, like in the sense that if if I give them a task, I always assume they're gonna do it. You know, like, whereas some other people that I know are like, okay, this person in that position, you know, maybe in like committees or at work or something, this person in that position, it's gonna go wrong. It's gonna go wrong. It's gonna mess up, and maybe sometimes they're right. And I don't have that that NI foreseeing of the future with the people, because I always trust them to do their job, you know. So there, no, I don't trust myself to know what people are gonna do in the future. But again, not in the sense that it causes me problems or that I'm super surprised when friends, you know, when friends become more distant friends, or when some people, yeah, choose to not be as close to me as they were before. Maybe I don't know. I don't have the problems with it. I don't. It doesn't cause me freakouts. But I'm definitely not as good at that as other people, I guess. Long answer.
Yeah. Do you guys have any? Maybe Andrea, do you have something else to say, or another question, maybe for Roos, or about your demons, or?
Yeah. So I guess like what really stood out to me in that kind of in like that interaction that we had is that Roz, you mentioned that you don't have as much like observer freakouts because they're your two middle functions, and I remember just thinking, oh yeah, of course, like that makes so much sense. And I guess a question that I would have is like where your freakouts are and how do you see your freakouts? Because I think I would just have a very different experience.
Let me think of the freakouts I have. I guess they're the classical EJ freakouts with the tribe. When I don't when I find it impossible to communicate with someone, or when someone is really actively trying to frustrate the environment, or the corporation process, maybe with working together with people. There's always that one person, in a group that is just not willing to put in the effort, stuff like that. And I know it causes everyone problems. Like, I'm sure you're frustrated by these people too. Like, everyone will be. But that's where when I break my head over, like, I come home and I rant to my boyfriend for like an hour, like what this person did, and it will keep me awake at night thinking, how can I change this person? What can I do? What can I say? Like, how can we make this work as a group? Like, so very TE. So stuff like that is really where my freakouts are. And actually, I was saying before to Benjamin that I'm organizing a big study trip right now, and I realized I do have the observer freakouts when doing this, because some of the reservations for restaurants don't work out, or like stuff is more expensive than we thought. So those are kind of like control chaos, I guess, freakouts. And yesterday I had a really bad one. I was like crying for an hour because something didn't work out the way I wanted. But what I've seen is it's always, okay, it's an observer freakout, but it's always in service of TE, because what I'll think is, oh my God, if I don't control this control and chaos, if I'm not able to work it out, the people will hate me, or people will be disappointed, or I will have to ask them more effort than they thought they were going to have to put in before, or I will cause them problems, and I don't want that because they'll hate me and blah blah blah. EJ classic.
Right.
I guess does it make any sense, or?
I feel like I definitely have those freakouts as well, but it's much more contained. Like, it doesn't bother me as much as my observer freakouts, or it doesn't, like when you kind of like go through life, there's always kind of this one very like pressing like problem, and for me it's always like, what does the future hold? So like that's so different, and it's kind of it's refreshing to see that we're all kind of different people struggling with different things, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you get that problem at all, Andrea, that there's like that one person that doesn't want to cooperate, or it doesn't really bother you as much?
I mean, when there's like that one person who doesn't cooperate, I feel like I either just adjust to my own expectations. So it's a very feminine TE way of, like trying to work with them. Like, if I know that like they're not going to put in any effort, then like, how can I work around it? But if the actual problem is that like we really got to like try to like change that person, then I think like, oh, like what can make that person tick? Like, do I like give them like carrots or sticks, or do I, try to be nicer to them and guilt them into putting more effort and things like that? So I feel like I feel like for me, like I never hit that like brick wall of like, oh my gosh, like I'm like this is never gonna work out. Everyone in this group is gonna hate me, and it's all gonna be my fault. Like I never kind of like hit that wall, but like for me, it's always just kind of, you know, dancing around the situation, trying out different strategies and different techniques, seeing what they respond to, and then kind of like try to work with that.
Nice.
That's very nice.
And what about
Yeah,
that?
it's pretty smart.
Yeah, cool. So what about that that chaos that Roos was a little bit freaking out about, like maybe plans changing, something costing more? Would that also stress you out, or is that more like you're okay, it's chaos, you know it's going to happen, you can just flow with it?
I think first of all, it's very rare that I would end up in that situation because I know that I don't like planning, and my friends know that I don't like planning. For me, the way that I plan trips is that like I would like open up Google Maps and then, you know, beforehand just like mark all of the places and all the restaurants that I want to go, and then during the trip the night before, then I'll plan out like, you know, like what are we going to do tomorrow, like we're going to like go to this area, and so like, you know, like does that route that we want to go match up with any of the places that I have pinned, and if so, like let me try like calling up some restaurants and make some reservations, and if one doesn't work, then let's go to the other, and if none of those work, then let's just get there and then figure it out. Like there's Yelp in every country, right? You know, I feel like that's kind of how I tend to deal with the specific situation of you know, planning for trips and events.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess it's a very SE way of
Yeah.
faux planning.
So you would just never take up the job to plan a trip for 35 people for like a week?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that kind of really sounds terrifying. Like 35 people for a week, like I can't really do that. Like the situation that I'm thinking of is like, and like 3 of my closest friends like for a weekend trip, you know? I feel like that's kind of the extent to which I know that I can, you know, deal with this.
Basically the same thing, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Do you have, okay, now, do you have a question for Andrea at all, Roos?
Yeah, I have 2. I see we have 7 minutes left, but I'll make it quick. So I have a friend that I think is Andrea's type, or like close. I'm not sure. But I want to know if it's right. So what I kind of want to know is with your SE and especially your demon NI, do you have, maybe it's very specific, do you have any ways that you try to figure out the future with, that you know other people might find a little like odd? Like, so this friend I mentioned, she's into horoscopes, although she knows that like scientifically they don't make sense, but she's like, yeah, they're like my pet peeve. I like horoscopes, I like reading them, and the way I explain it is that she's trying to foresee the future, in some really extreme way, in order to work around that demon. And I kind of, maybe you don't have the same thing, but like, do you recognize anything of what I say, or is that not something you do?
It's actually really weird because I used to be really into horoscopes. I guess it's not as much. Yeah, it's not as much the whole like, you know, this is what's going to happen to you this week or this month type of, you know, horoscope reading. But like I used to be super into like, you know, what does this horoscope say about my personality, my friends' personalities, and there are other kind of like more like elaborate sub theories into horoscopes where there's like your sun sign and your moon sign and your first rising sign and your Mercury sign and like what each of those say about you, and I like consume it all and I love it, and I like moved on from there to like personality tests, so like Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, and that's kind of how I came to know about Dave and Janet. Yeah, but what I love about horoscopes and personality tests is that, like, you know, they tell you who you are. They tell you who your friends who have taken the same test are, and sometimes like the test would also give you kind of like personal growth advice, or like, oh, since you're an Enneagram 7, like these are the like bullet points you need to follow in order to achieve spiritual growth. And like I used to eat that up and be like, oh, if I just follow these rules, then I'll be okay. So yeah, I feel like it. Yeah, it kind of is a way of consuming in order to,
compensate,
you know, figure
for
out
your
what
lack of an eye.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Okay. I just want a really quick second question is what kinds, so you just said horoscopes and like Enneagram personality stuff, but what kinds of other things do you consume? Like generally, yeah.
Um, well, I love watching TV and movies, and every day during my daily commutes, I have to listen to an audiobook, otherwise I can't function. I just get too bored and too restless. So yeah, I guess like there's definitely consumption in that form. I feel like reading for me is just too still. Like I like audiobooks because I can listen to audiobooks while doing other things. So maybe that's my consume play pinging each other. But yeah, sitting down and like reading a physical book, like I can't.
Audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there like
but I guess there are other.
Is there like a theme to the type of book and TV show you want to consume?
Great question.
Yeah. So my boyfriend is really into kind of like superhero stuff. So like, you know, the Marvel DC comics and the worlds that expand around it. And he also really likes kind of like fantasy worlds. So he consumes a lot of that type of stuff. So I consume a lot of that type of stuff too, just so we have like some kind of common ground. And I always ask people for like audiobook recommendations. So like people close to me, like, so what do the people close to me like? I think Shannon, like in my typing video, Shannon described this as like me taking people into my FI. And I never really understood it, but I think now that I'm kind of talking out loud, maybe I'm just kind of adopting their FIs and making it my own because they're important to me and so they're my FI. But yeah, if it could be free reign, I don't even know what I would consume if it's not, you know, things that I know people around me like. Oh, I guess there was a phase where I was very into productivity things. So like the Miracle Morning and things like that.
Cool.
All right, cool. Thanks.
What do you consume?
Yeah, that's why I asked it, because my consumer are the same. Okay, 2.5 minutes. My consumer are the same functions. So, but what I consume is more like, I'd say it's childish stuff in the sense that I like watching Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and like over and over and over again. So I guess you can't really call it consume anymore because it's the same thing. It's actually like NI's, my known information. And also like reality TV shows. But like that's the thing, that's why I thought I was SF before, because reading a lot about op and like watching all the classes is really not what I would normally consume. It's like a weird thing for me. Because I just do like SF stuff, like reality TV shows, I guess. Okay, see, we gotta wrap it up. But
we still got a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for coming out. Did you guys feel like you had some triangulation going on, that you guys were sort of seeing each other opposites or something? Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I did.
And you, Andrea, a little bit?
Yeah, I guess I can really see how we are kind of like the same functions, but like, you know, a flipped order. And that's very fascinating to watch. Yeah.
I know, same. I thought the same thing. And thank you for having us on the interview. Really nice.
Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.